What's up, YouTube? So I want to come through right quick and talk about intersectionality, all right? And just talk about how we as a community and just as people view that word, all right? Because I've sort of picked up that some people, and particularly I see this coming from more so black men, so some black men in the community kind of tend to view the word intersectionality as being like a bad or dirty word. And I'm just trying to figure out perhaps why that is. I have an idea of why that could be. Hopefully, my idea is wrong, though. Um, but I think perhaps one idea that I have is that perhaps some may view it as being like intersectionality being associated with, quote unquote, white feminism. Even though a black woman created the term, and also created the term partially to push back against white feminism, partially at least, right? Um, uh, Kimberly Crenshaw, she is the woman who coined the term intersectionality, right? And for those of you who don't really know what intersectionality is, basically it's when you have identities that intersect, right? Like say, for instance, you're a black person, but you're also a woman. So you would be a black woman. And therefore you have issues that you deal with being a black person, issues you deal with being a woman, and also some unique issues that you deal with being a black woman, right? And I think for Kimberly Crenshaw, that may have been where that that whole situation may have sparked her to coin that term, intersectionality, right? Because I think when it came to like black women, oftentimes either black women were black or they were women. They can't and even still today, I don't think it's still like that. Where it's like they can't quite at times they can't be both. They have to be one or the other, right? And of course we know that the feminist type of stuff usually refers to like white feminists, and they're not being intersectional, quote unquote. They're not being intersectional. And then unfortunately when it comes to black issues, right, oftentimes black men are at the forefront of the issue, so they're not being intersectional either and trying to include black women as a part of the conversation, right? And sometimes black women are sort of shamed for trying to advocate specifically for black female issues. And they get shamed and get called a feminist as if they're like colliding or colluding with white feminism, where when that isn't really always the case, sometimes black women, I think they just want to be acknowledged specifically as black women, not just black and not just a woman. Again, and of course, we all have some sort of intersectionality if you really think about it, right? We all have identities that sort of intersect one way or another, right? Some people are like black, but they're Muslim, black Jehovah's Witness, black Republicans, right? Um, Black men who are, um, perhaps a foreign born. It's so many different identities that intersect. I think that it's just when it comes to black women, this is just probably one of the more popular ones, right? That intersect. And oftentimes this situation is ignored. You know? And I think when it comes to some black men, I think that perhaps they may not want to deal with black female issues because they don't think that they're important. I mean, we all know how the colorism conversation ends up, you know. Um, so I think for them, uh, shaming tactic that they possibly could use to silence black women is calling them a feminist, right? Because we know that being called a feminist in the black community is considered to be a dirty word. Perhaps they could be womanists or womanists or womanism, a womanist. Yeah, and I think womanist is like black, specifically feminism geared towards black women, right? So black female feminism or black feminism, um, and I think some people may be operating out of, under some just ignorance. They just may not know the situation. But, I have heard some people say, they don't, some black men particularly say they don't really like the term. They don't like that. Um, I don't know exactly why that is. Um, but again, I think like we all have some sort of intersectionality, or at least. Of us do. Like you can be black and disabled. That's intersectionality, you know. So many different ways that identities can intersect, right? Um, but I just want to come through and just put that out there and see what you guys think about this situation. Do you think that intersectionality is just some like uh, SJW social justice warrior mumbo jumbo? I don't really like that term, social justice warrior. But do you perhaps just think it's like that? So, some social justice feminist mumbo jumbo, or do you think that intersectionality is really a thing? Do you think that intersectionality is a bad thing, to acknowledge and to talk about? Do you think it's a good thing to acknowledge and talk about? I just want to get people's opinions on this, right? And sort of spark a dialogue, and see where people are coming from. As well, when it comes to black women, should we acknowledge black women as being specifically black women? Or should black women simply just acknowledge themselves as being black? Don't, you know, distance themselves from blackness by being called, or by being like a black woman, right? Just be black, right? Um, But also, sometimes some black men remind black women that they're black women. Let's be real, when it comes to like, oh, black women have, you know, high rates of obesity. That is a black woman. They're not saying black people have high rates of obesity. They're saying black women have high rates of obesity. Like black women have children out of wedlock at the highest rate. Again, they're saying black women. They're not just saying black people, even though it takes two people to have a child, right? And I may end up coming through with some information about that too at one point or another. Mm, uh, but for now, I'll bring this video to a close. So thank you very much for watching. Feel free to comment. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.